All right, Shalom. First and foremost, we're going to give all praises to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem, Rakak Wadash, and double honor to our apostles. The great millstone for teaching his truth. All right, that's gone all around the earth. This is GMS Lions of St. Louis Camp. All right, back at you again with a weekly lesson. And this lesson shouldn't be that long. Lord willing, it'll be edifying, and we're just going to go revisit some laws concerning our diet and take a look at what most jakes here in Babylon the Great call soul food, okay, and draw some conclusions, some correlations to it. All right, so with that, we'll jump right in and see if we can't get our first so-called soul food definition from Wikipedia. All right, Salaki. So it reads, it says soul food is an ethnic cuisine of, as they have here, African Americans, and so we know that's the Israelites, right? All right, it says it originated in the American South from the cuisines of enslaved Africans trafficked to the North American colonies through the Atlantic slave trade during the antebellum period, and is closely associated, but not to be confused with the cuisine of the American South. The expression quote-unquote soul food originated in the mid 1960s when quote-unquote soul was a common word used to describe African American culture, all right, which is really Israelite cultures here in Babylon the Great, all right. And the whole thing with soul food was that it was some kind of sustenance that sustained us through these difficult, 300-400 years, okay? So we just basically ate whatever the slave master gave us, okay? Because when they captured the southern kingdom and brought them over here on the hulls of them slave ships, they didn't bring the diet of the Israelite with them, okay? So going on, it says soul food uses cooking techniques and ingredients from West African, Central African, Western European, and indigenous cuisines of the Americas. The cuisine is initially denigrated as low quality and belittled because of its origin. It was seen as low-class food, and African Americans in the North looked down on their black Southern compatriots who preferred soul food. All right, the concept has evolved from describing the food of slaves in the South to being taken up as a primary source of pride in African American community, even in the North, such as New York City, Chicago, and Detroit. Soul food historian Adrian Miller explained the difference between soul food and Southern food is that soul food is intensely seasoned and uses a variety of meats to add flavor to food and add a variety of spicy and savory sauces. These spicy and savory sauces add robust flavor, right? This method of preparation was influenced by Western African cuisine, where Western African created sauce to add flavor and spice to their food, because generally the food that we got was basically trash that the so-called white man threw out, okay? Going on, it says the method, let me see, Slovakia. Black Americans also add sugar to make cornbread, while, quote, white Southerners say when you put sugar in cornbread, it becomes cake. All right, European immigrants seasoned and flavored their food using salt, pepper, smoke, and pickled spices. African Americans add more spices of hot and sweet sauces to increase the spiciness or heat of their food. Bob Jeffries, the author of Soul Food Cookbook, explained the difference between soul food and Southern food. While all soul food is Southern food, not all Southern food is soul. Soul food cooking is an example of how really good Southern African Americans, you notice the theme there, that's what they use, cooked with what they had available to them, okay? Impoverished whites and black people in the South cook many of the same dishes stemming from Southern cooking traditions, but styles of preparation sometimes vary. Certain techniques popular and sold in other Southern cuisines, frying meat and using all parts of the animal for consumption, All parts of the meat, see, are shared with cultures all over the world. All right, so that's a little bit of a background on what most Jakes in Babylon call soul food. All right, so we'll get, matter of fact, Salakia, let me slide down here. I think there was something I wanted to get. Bear with me here. Forgive me. Here you see where it says slavery, right? And it goes into this. Here it says soul food recipes have pre-slavery influences as West African and European foodways were adapted to the environment of the region. Soul food originated in home cooking of the rural southern United States or the deep south, right? During the time of slavery, using locally gathered or raised foods, other inexpensive ingredients. Rabbits. Is it legal to eat rabbits? No. Squirrels. All right. Deer is venison. All right. Are often hunted for meat. Okay. Fish, frogs, crawfish, turtles, shellfish, and crab are often collected from freshwater, saltwater, and marshes. Okay. So you have a variety of different things in here. You know, some would be considered legal according to the law and some not. All right, so let's jump down here. You see what leftovers in undesirable parts of animals such as ham hocks, hog jaws, pig feet, ears, skin, and intestines, which white plantation owners what did not eat. Okay, so they threw out the trash, and when they threw it out, they threw it over to Jake. All right, brother, let's hit Leviticus chapter 11, starting verse 1.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, starting at the first verse. And the Lord Yahweh spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts that ye shall eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the coney, okay, because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divided the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcasses ye shall not touch. They are unclean to you. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever has fins and scales in the water, in the seas and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall even be an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever has no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. And these
That's it. You can stop right there.
Okay.
So for younger brothers and sisters that are coming into the truth, of course, as brothers who've been in for a while, we understand these laws here in this chapter. We're not going to go through all of them, okay? But you get an idea, because most of the things that Jake eat here in Babylon, they're abominations, right? So, you got these animals, just like it mentioned in the Wikipedia article, eating hare or rabbits, okay, raccoon, possums, which is what I was going to drop down to verse, if I can, verse 27, because, Country Jake, he loved to go out there and catch things like this, verse 27, whatsoever goes upon his paws, okay, raccoons, possums, any type of quote unquote cat or of a canine family. Okay, all of these things you're not supposed to touch. Okay, as far as food is concerned, and whatsoever goeth upon his paws uh, among all manner of beasts that go on all four, those are unclean unto you. Whoso touches their carcass shall be unclean until the evening. Okay, so Jake got a thing with going after raccoons and possums and this, that, and the third. Okay, and that's unlawful. All right. But for you, younger people in there, maybe you never heard this before. Well, now you're being put on notice about the things that you shouldn't eat, especially when it comes to those without scales and fins. And like I said, this is old hat for the brothers, and a few sisters out there who've been in the truth for a while. But those things which are don't have fins and scales, your lobsters, your crabs, all your little sea creatures at the bottom, your crustaceans, eels, calamari, turtles, all those different types of things you're not supposed to eat. But Jake got into the habit of eating whatever he could get his hands on, right? Because why? We would destroy people when we got over here anyway. Oysters. Yeah, oysters, clams, scallops, all that. You're not supposed to eat that. All right. So we'll move on to Deuteronomy 28, brother.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 48. You said 48, right?
47. Start at 47.
And it says, because thou servest not Yahweh thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
Right. Jake is ungrateful. Go ahead.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he had destroyed thee. Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far from the end of the earth, as swift as an eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation fierce continence, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Kind, that's it. So here you get a little bit of it that Jake being ungrateful. So what? So when we put in hardcore chattel slavery, you had to go to this man for everything, right? So he threw the scraps out his door for Jake to live off of. And we're going to watch a short film on this that's going to give you a little bit of a background and history on what most Jakes in this place call soul food, right? Because every hood you go to in whatever major city in this place, you're going to find a soul food joint that everybody tells you, if you go to Dallas, you got to hit over here. If you go to St. Louis, you got to go here. If you go over here to Harlem, you got to go to Sylvia's. Whatever it is. Okay, there's a soul food spot in that city serving pig feet. Okay, all right, that's what you're gonna find over there. Okay, so there's this nation of the Edomites and of the Spaniards who came over here and conquered the Northern Kingdom as well. All right, they're thrown in there as well as being the villain. Okay, so with that, we'll jump right to a little short video. It's about 12 minutes or so, and we'll get into the history of this thing. Okay.
What if I told you that the delicious, comforting dishes we now know as soul food originated from the scraps of a brutal past? How did the remnants of slavery transform into a celebrated cuisine that embodies resilience and cultural pride? Hey everyone, welcome to Aggressive Intelligence. Join us as we explore the extraordinary journey of slave food evolving into soul food, a narrative steeped in history, creativity, and survival. Let's uncover the powerful story behind soul food's evolution. Long before soul food existed were the diverse culinary traditions of West and Central Africa. These nations sported a rich array of ingredients and cooking methods that would form the bedrock of what we now understand as soul food. Staples like yams, okra, black-eyed peas, and rice sat at the heart of many African diets. One-pot meals, stewing in palm oil, along with a variety of spices, were common techniques of cooking. When millions of Africans were forcibly brought to America during the Atlantic slave trade, they took more than just their bodies with them. They had their cultural knowledge, including culinary expertise. Although slavery was despicable, these people found a way to preserve their food traditions and adapt them to their new environment and the limited resources they encountered in America. At the same time, this ensured the preservation of the culinary heritage from the practice. Life on plantations was marked by strict limitations in food. Plantation owners barely provided minimum rations to the slaves, which typically consisted of cornmeal, salted fish, and minute portions of vegetables. Frederick Douglass gave the following account in his autobiography regarding the meager provisions offered for slaves to eat.
Back in 2022, I lost two very important people in my life. Big figures. It really wasn't until February of
8 pounds of pork, or its equivalent in fish, and 1 bushel of cornmeal per month. This ration barely kept adults alive and working. These meager rations were supplemented by whatever the enslaved could scrounge. They gathered wild plants and hunted small game and fished when they could. A few were even permitted to have small garden plots where they grew vegetables. These gardens were an oasis of sustenance, but also a source of pride, a way for the enslaved to exert a modicum of control over what they ate. Perhaps the biggest adaptation was using parts of animals that were simply thrown away by slave owners. Intestines became chitterlings or chitlins. Pig feet, ears, and tails became tasty dishes. Even dandelion greens and pokeweed, considered weeds by owners, were added to the diet. This resourcefulness paved the way for many soul food staples. Preparing chitterlings required significant cleaning and cooking to make them edible, and enslaved people seasoned them with herbs and spices to create a savory dish. Chitterlings became a staple in soul food and are still eaten today, especially in the southern United States. Ham hocks are the lower part of a pig's leg, near the foot. They are a tough, fatty cut of meat with little muscle, so they were often discarded by slaveholders. Enslaved people slow-cooked ham hocks, often using them to flavor stews, soups, and greens. This practice continues in many traditional southern dishes, where ham hocks are used to add a rich, smoky flavor to collard greens, black-eyed peas, and beans. Like other tough cuts of meat, pig feet required long cooking times to become tender. Enslaved people would braise or boil them and season them heavily to make them more palatable. Pig feet are still considered a delicacy in some Southern and African American communities. Tripe, the edible lining of a cow's stomach, was another part of the animal that slave owners often discarded. Enslaved people used tripe to make dishes like stews and soups, often slow cooking it to soften the tough texture. Tripe is still a common ingredient in many traditional dishes around the world, including African and Latin American cuisines. Oxtails are the tails of cattle, and though they were once considered undesirable, they were commonly given to enslaved people. Oxtails are bony and have a high fat content, but with long, slow cooking, they become tender and flavorful. Oxtail stew, a rich and hearty dish, has its roots in the creativity of enslaved cooks and remains a beloved dish in soul food cuisine today. Organ meats, such as liver, kidneys, and heart, were often given to enslaved people as part of their rations. These cuts were nutritious and could be made into flavorful dishes when prepared with the right techniques and seasonings. Liver and onions, for example, became a popular dish that is still enjoyed in some African American households. The diet of the enslaved was restricted as a means of control. Owners would try to keep the enslaved captives weak and dependent by limiting the food. Yet, it is in the ingenuity displayed through the making of nourishing meals from scraps that it became at once a testament to their resilience and fundamental tenet of creativity for enslaved African Americans. The ability to make something out of nothing became the trademark of soul food cuisine. The harsh realities of plantation life dictated that cooking methods be efficient. One-pot meals became the norm, easy to prepare and able to stretch very few ingredients into a meal. Tough cuts of meat and vegetables cooked in unison formed flavorful, filling stews. This is an extremely old method from West African cooking traditions that endures as central to soul food today. Seasoning was paramount in transforming plain ingredients into filling meals. Hot peppers, onions, and garlic were freely used. Bacon grease or lard imparted flavor and calories to foods. These strong flavors were a necessity and a tie to the motherland of Africa's rich culinary heritage. Preservation techniques were essential to make the food available throughout the year. Smoking and salting of meat, pickling of vegetables, and drying herbs further elongated the life of the meager amount of food supplies the enslaved people received. These methods influenced the development of dishes like country ham and chow chow relish. The open hearth or fire pit was central to the cooking process. Cast iron cookware, especially that of the Dutch oven variety, became indispensable. These heavy pots withstood long hours of cooking and held heat well. That turned tough pieces of meat tender. This versatility of cast iron for frying, baking, and stewing was quite important in soul food preparation. These were not mere adaptations to survive, but acts of cultural preservation. When conserving methods of cooking from their homelands and creatively using ingredients available, enslaved African Americans continued their culinary traditions under the most difficult circumstances. Enslaved people could own chickens while being prohibited from owning cattle reflects the complex dynamics of slavery and property rights in the antebellum South. This minor allowance proved to have significant implications for diet and economy alike. Chickens were considered of negligible economic importance compared to larger livestock like cattle, pigs, and horses. Because of this, slave owners often allowed enslaved individuals to keep chickens for personal use, as it reduced the plantation's feeding costs and provided enslaved people with a source of food and a small measure of autonomy. More importantly, they offered a certain amount of economic freedom to enslaved people. The enslaved could sell their eggs or chickens, therefore offering a small but important source of income for them. This money could be used to purchase additional food, clothing, or even, in some cases, contribute to buying one's freedom. It is from this time frame that one can really trace the real cultural significance of chicken in soul food. Fried chicken became a Sunday dinner or church gathering type food. This provided pride to be able to serve chicken and became symbolic of resourcefulness and culinary skill. This tradition carries through to this day with chicken as a celebratory food in soul food cuisine. As chattel slavery was coming to an end, cooking techniques and flavor profiles created by enslaved African Americans began to spread to parts of the nation they hadn't reached before. Many formerly enslaved people continued to work as cooks during Reconstruction, introducing their culinary traditions to a wider audience. During the Great Migration of the 20th century, millions of African Americans moved from the rural South to urban areas in the North and West, bringing along their cooking traditions to new locations and opening restaurants and food establishments that provided familiar Southern dishes. The term soul food did not come into being until the 1960s as part of the Black Power movement. It was about reclaiming a cuisine born of struggle and celebrating it as a source of cultural pride. Soul food now meant more than sustenance. It was about hooking the self to history, symbolizing resilience, and tastefully claiming an African American identity. Many soul food classics are directly traceable to the antebellum South plantation kitchens. Cornbread represents a soul food staple that is easily traced directly back to the simple ash cakes that had been prepared by enslaved people. Often, these would be cooked directly on hot stones or in ashes from a fire. As such, today's golden, crispy-edged cornbread can be related to those humble beginnings. Greens, collards, mustard, and turnip were indispensable in the slave diet. Packed with nutrition and easy to grow, they supplied important vitamins and minerals often missing in the meager rations.
Most people have no clue that in 2023 the best way to make money on Amazon is not.
Cooking greens for flavor with pork became common. This method of seasoning vegetables with meat remains a hallmark of soul food cooking. Dishes like Hop and John of black-eyed peas and rice are a product of both African and slave cuisine. Many enslaved Africans were familiar with rice as a crop that they had cultivated in their homelands. Now, combined with black-eyed peas, it became a really good, nutritious, and filling meal. This history spawned the tradition of eating black-eyed peas on New Year's Day for good luck. Sweet potato pie has often been called the sister to pumpkin pie. It was born of the abundant sweet potato crop in the South by cooks enslaved in European kitchens who adapted European custard pie using this familiar ingredient. The result is uniquely African American dessert and soul food favorite to this day. Soul food restaurants can be found in every state in America, serving as custodians for this culinary tradition. The majority of these eating establishments are family operated and are very effective in preserving recipes and styles of cooking that have been passed from one generation to another. They are not restaurants, but rather living museums of African American food history. However, the rich, often fatty nature of traditional soul food has lent itself to serious health concerns in recent times. This means that the diet partially contributes to the prevalence of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease among African Americans. The result has been a movement toward much healthier ways of preparing soul food. Chefs and home cooks alike are finding methods to retain the flavor of soul food without the large amounts of fat, salt, and sugar. This is done by techniques such as using smoked turkey to give greens flavor instead of pork, or baking instead of frying. Even with such changes, soul food remains integral to African American culture. It is present at family reunions, church functions, and celebrations. The preparation and sharing of this food are ways of connecting with heritage and strengthening community ties. Soul food cookbooks and television cooking programs have multiplied, showing sustained interest in this cuisine. But it doesn't stop there. Soul food touches every ethnic group. Its flavors and techniques have become part of the greater American culinary landscape. Dishes like fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, and collard greens are now enjoyed by people of all backgrounds. From the shores of Africa to American kitchens, we have traced the remarkable journey of soul food. It was born of deprivation, shaped by ingenuity, and elevated by pride. It's really a cuisine that tells the story of survival and cultural triumph. We have noted that soul food is so much more than good eats. It's history on a plate, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of people who could turn scraps into sustenance and feeling into culinary art. So the next time you indulge in soul food, recall, you have tasted centuries of history, creativeness, and resilience. Thanks for joining us on Aggressive Intelligence. Don't forget to like, subscribe.
And let's stop it there now. Just throw in fair use, okay, for using this guy's channel and his video. All right, but we saw a number of things in there, okay, and the point being also that that type of diet, you can't eat that every day because that's going to make you sick, okay. You got something to say, bro?
And add to this, I was just doing some research, and with Issachar and Northern Kingdom as well. It's the same thing where we went through getting conquered by these devils and stuff, and they bringing these bullshit ass foods. I was just doing some research. The Northern Kingdom's done it that way as well. Man.
Right.
When the Spanish invaded, they brought that pork and all that bullshit too. That's why Issachar so heavy on pork to this day,
Right.
All because it's the devil, man.
Right. And you see that it wasn't so much that you were trying to, Jake wasn't trying to come up with some kind of culinary idea. It's like, how are we going to eat this garbage? Right? So now we have to go out and find some herbs, something to put in it just so that we can make it to the next day. Because as he was saying, collard greens and sweet potatoes and all, that's a lot of starch in your body. You know what I mean? It's very, very unhealthy, but as it went on to say, of course, Jake is trying to somewhat take care of that, but, it's one of those, hey, we under the curses, man, that's all it is to it, but just to go to show you, that's not a real a diet that if you can afford to eat a different way today, you should do that. Okay, you shouldn't stick to a diet like that. That was out of necessity. Now, like we were discussing a little bit earlier, there's certain thing, sweet potato pie. Well, so long as you don't use any lard in it or cornbread, you're not cooking with pork fat and all that kind of thing. There's a way to try to make that a little bit more healthy. You was gonna say something, bro? Oh, okay. Nah, we don't eat no pumpkin pie. Yeah, so I wanted to go back to one thing that they talked about, and that was Salakia. They talked about Hoppin' John. right?
Yeah.
And like that's a superstition, all right, about on New Year's, my mother-in-law, she was kind of like that, she in the spiritual realm now, so she's good. But she used to have that superstition on New Year's Day. A man had to walk through the door first, and they would make a pot of black-eyed peas and rice. That's what you would eat on New Year's Day, which is what he covered here, and they call it Hoppin' John. So that's a superstition, okay? But I personally had experience with that silliness. And as a matter of fact, brother, let's get that axe now. Let's say 17 and what? That's 22.
It says, Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious.
Mm-hmm.
For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you. Yahweh that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is the Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands.
Right. So Jake is a superstitious damn people. They come up with all kind of crazy shit. Even when you could tell them and correct them and say, hey, there's no such thing. Well, I ain't taking no chances. Leroy on the job probably walking around with a rabbit's foot in his pocket. You still got people who walk around like that. Okay, they won't walk under a ladder. If a black cat crossed their path, they cross the street. All kind of. Jake loved that kind of foolishness. You see. Let's see here. Slocky. Let me get one more scripture here. I forgot where I wanted to go. Yeah, right here. Ecclesiasticus 17. Ecclesiasticus, I read this myself. Ecclesiasticus 17 or Sirach 17. And verse 22, it says, The arms of a man is a signet with him, and he will keep the good deeds of man as the apple of his eye, and give repentance to his sons and daughters. Right? Afterwards he will rise up and reward them, and render their recompense upon their heads. But unto them that repent he grant them return, and comfort those that fail in patience. Return unto the Lord and forsake thy sins. Make thy prayer before his face, and what? Offend less. So when you learn the scriptures, you're supposed to offend less. So now, just with a short video, and we've all covered stuff like this pertaining to the law in Leviticus, pertaining to your diet, and how to take care of yourself and, do a better job of that. But still, it's okay to go over it again, all right, because you never know who's watching that's new, all right. Verse 26, it says, Turn again to the Most High and turn away from iniquity, for he will lead thee out of darkness into the light of health, okay, and hate thou abomination vehemently, all right. And so I took the time to go ahead and look up that word vehement, okay, so that you have an understanding if you've never done it before. All right, it says, marked by forceful energy, powerful, right, intensely emotional and passionate, fervent, deeply felt, forcibly expressed. Okay, so you give your best effort, right, and you should sin less. Okay, once you come into the knowledge of this truth, all right, and study up on what the Lord has given us in the scriptures. Okay. All right. Any brothers got anything? You hold anything? All right.
Ecclesiastes 17. 10. And it reads, And the elect shall praise his holy name. Besides this, he gave them knowledge and the law of life for a heritage, right? So the law of life for a heritage is one of those things that's a part of our heritage is what? Dietary law.
Right.
Because like the brother was saying, is that that diet equals death. And they was even talking about that on the TV show The Boondocks, you know, and because the law is life, you know, it's a way of life, but the type of culture that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man gave us is death. It's totally adverse against the way that the whole much we share. And which is okay to eat some of those things, like Jake love sweet potato pie and stuff like that. Like that's fine and dandy. But everything is what is in moderation.
Moderation, that's right. You know, that's the key.
Kind.
If you would, just go ahead and hit that Ezekiel 4 and 13.
God bless. It's Ezekiel 4 and 13, and it reads, "And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whether I would drive them."
That's right. And so, you know, Esau Edom, you know, he kept the best cuts of the meat for himself. And quiet as it's kept, hell, you can't buy a damn oxtail now without spending $100. You know, if you wanted one, you know, they used to throw that kind of stuff out. You know, you used to be able, even when I was a kid, I can remember my mother going shopping with my mom, and you know they could buy that shit for like 69 cents a pound. You know, if that much. You know, but go ahead, brother.
I made some oxtail stew a couple of weeks ago and shit. When I bought the oxtail, that shit was $80-some damn.
Yeah, and that don't count the damn onions and carrots and potatoes and everything that you put in it, the gravy that you buy or whatever. That shit is $100-some odd to make a pot of oxtail stew. You know.
Right.
But see what happened was when white folks began to fall on their hard times, you know, they learned to take some of the things that we did, you know, and then that's turkey wings, turkey necks. That was something that they didn't really, you know, they didn't mess with that. You know what I mean? But now you can't even hardly go in the store and find any smoked turkey necks. You know, Esau done bought them all. You know, they eating them now. You know.
Yeah. You started to see the leaders that are starting to make soul food themselves.
Right.
And shit, you know, like I remember seeing a video on Instagram. These guys Edomites cooking fried chicken, collard greens, corns, and cornbread and shit. I'm like, man, versus how Jake make it, I'm like, man, I would never let you fucking Edomites cook that shit. That shit, the chicken meat look all wet, don't even look fried all the way. That's just gonna show you, man, Jake is, you know, the form of all things. Even when we on hard times, we can make a meal look like shit and make it a whole delicacy, you know? Yeah. Jake is cold like that.
Yeah. But, so, go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say, but be cautious of what you're eating, of course. You know?
Right. You know, and there's not much we can do now because of what they actually put in the stores and make available to us. Like we don't control these GMO foods and all that. You know, Esau's behind all this shit. You know, growing lab meat and all that kind of thing. You know, so these times are gonna be as hard that's coming up. You know, with these evil days. All right.
Can I read 2 more verses?
Time. Let me drop down.
Verse 14. And it reads, "Then said I, Lord power, behold, my soul have not been polluted, for from my youth up even to now have I not eaten of that which died of itself or is torn in pieces, neither came there abominable flesh into my mouth. Then he said unto me, Lo, I have given thee cow's dung for man's dung, and thou shalt prepare thy bread therewith." Right. So that not only is the diet jacked up from the beginning, you start eating the so-called white man and made GMO foods, like everything is defiled.
Right.
So you got to think. So not only are you eating the foul food, but the food ain't even real. You know, it's all processed.
Right.
So that's pretty much like a double whammy. Because it just goes to show you how low we done came and how messed up this captivity is. The food is literally killing you.
Right.
You know, little to no nutritional value at all.
That's right. It's empty carbs, you know, with the starches and the salt, and then the fat content. You know, like we said, you know, there's certain parts of that peach cobbler or whatever. If the crust is not made with pig's lard, you know, hey, you know, you can find a way around that. Sure, you know, you can eat you some peach cobbler. You know, you can eat you know, some bunt cake or whatever the hell they call that shit. And you know, certain things you can, you know, consume, but like the brother said, you know, you got to do it in moderation. You know, you can't go overboard. But at that time, you know, that's all they had, so they ate that way every day. You know, so brother, you got something? You hold it?
Kind of Sirach 30 and 15. Yeah, that taught me a few things. Like I always knew it came from slavery, but one thing I didn't know is that they gave them monthly rations. Like so, you get your what she said what they gave them 8 pounds of pork
Right.
or
Salted fish, right?
and then let's say make that last for the month. Like no wonder our people was going out catching squirrels or rabbits and shit like that. Because you gotta do what you gotta do. So our people was pressed against the corner, you know, and just eating what the fuck ever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To try to get by. So messed up, man. You know. Sirach 30:15, health and a good state of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth.
Beautiful.
There is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. So, the bottom line is when you study our customs, the food we eat, yeah, like we said, it was the origins of it was desperation, and Esau Edom wasn't going to give us something that was beneficial to us.
Right.
So you can't just say, well, this is what I grew up on and it's soul food. Yeah, but it was designed to be scraps. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want us to be in good health and in shape. You know, just barely enough to survive. So you gotta actually change your diet. You know, you gotta take the pork out of it. Right? You gotta, like the brother said, you gotta have balance. Because all them health problems that's associated with Jake, especially Southerners, the high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, all that, because you keep eating that shit. What they call soul food, which if you do research, it started off in slavery. Us getting pig scraps and all these things not benefit to us, and we made it a delicacy. But it just kills you. You know, fried chicken and all that other stuff. You gotta do it in balance. Bacon is always better, of course, but you know, and nowadays soul food places just they kill the food. Like that black woman that put all that stuff on the sweet potato.
Yeah.
She put 4 pounds of sugar.
Sugar, right.
And the butter she took like I don't know what the butter was on, I forgot. What was on the side of that? But they each had big stacks of butter.
Yeah.
Each one. I
She
forgot.
was making sweet potato pie. Could have been nutmeg.
No, it was something next to it. I forgot what it was, but it had a big whole stick of butter on each one. You know, when you go to the soul food place, a lot of them just drench it and season and stuff to make it stand out. But that's not kill you, know.
I mean, you saw her them arms, shit, motherfucking big shit. You already tell like what she be doing, you know.
And Jacob just go get it because it tastes good, but it's gonna kill you. You know, so eventually you gotta sever that connection and be balanced. I mean, I still eat the stuff that's all my family cook, but I don't eat pork no more. You know, you don't eat that stuff anymore. You get turkey instead, and you do things like your brother said in moderation. You know,
like you got a guy that been struggling eating pork bacon. Hey, switch to beef bacon.
Right.
The Lord made the animal clean for you.
Right.
Right.
He made everything there
He
in.
made turkey bacon.
Right.
He made beef bacon. So like, look, Jake, there's literally no excuse for you to be eating that.
That's right.
And, you know, I had some beef bacon earlier. Shit, that shit fire, man. I mean, it's expensive. Yeah, but I mean, that's an alternative right there.
Yeah, but that's the way Esau made it in this kingdom. Is if you want to eat well, it's gonna cost you. You know, if you don't want to eat the garbage and the shit, it's gonna cost you. You know. You had something?
Yeah, I got a precept for the if you will, Papa Kushai. Go to Revelations 12 and 14.
You getting accused of the brethren?
No.
Oh.
It's 12.
Revelation 12, 14.
Yeah, Revelations chapter 12 and verse 14. Right? And it says, and the woman, right, were given 2 wings of a great eagle. So the woman represents Jerusalem, the Israelites, okay? You had the northern kingdom already over here in America, right? And then if you go back up to Salakia, Baba Kushab. If you go back, wait a minute. Salakia, bear with me. Oh, if you go back up to Revelations 12 and 4, and it says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. And that's talking about the southern kingdom, okay, being brought over here to America, which also ties back into Revelations 14, right? And it says, and the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. And the great eagle represents America, okay? And it says that she might fly into the wilderness unto her place where she is nourished for a time. And that goes into this lesson where she was nourished by who? She was nourished by Esau Edom when we went into slavery. Okay? And it says, was she nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. That's all.
Okay.
Revelation 12 and 10.
12 and 10.
And the reason it says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation, strength in the kingdom of our power, Yahweh, and the power of his anointed. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. And Esau, things are coming out upon you, man. Those that bullshit you was feeding our people, man. Of course, this devil, look at them, they eating the abomination, But here you are, you the one that's forcing this shit out, and you just let that go on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Now it's accustomed to our people, man. You gotta pay for that shit, man.
Right.
You beat that into our people. It's a stumbling block to our people. The moment you bring out the dietary law to a Jake now, it's like he started catching on fire or some shit, man. But this is our heritage, man, not to be eating that bullshit.
Right.
Chicken, cool. Cow, cool. Lamb, cool. That pork shit, man, nah, man.
Yeah, and so that, we have, like we said, the dietary laws given by Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? And Jake will not do what is right. They accept it in place of this particular diet here, and when you try to correct them, they're like, well, nah, I don't want that. Well, it's like with everything else. They don't want righteousness. They don't even want the attempt of practicing righteousness. They'd rather keep doing the wicked shit that they've always done because they're familiar with that. That they know. But if you're talking about changing, they don't want to change. Brother Dwight, you had something?
I was about to get something.
Okay.
Somebody else has
come.
something.
All right. Any brother got anything else? We'll wait on the brother and get his script. Yeah, it's something else. I've talked to many a Jake. Even before going, getting into the truth, at the fucking plantation, and you would hear them around the quote unquote so-called holidays. Yeah, I went and picked up my hog maws and my chitlins, and there was one particular lady, I ain't gonna say her name, but I told her, I said, listen, stop buying that shit. They will sell you real food now. You don't have to eat. You don't have to eat that no more.
Right.
Oh, you sure know how to mess everything up. I'm like, nah, stop eating that shit.
Right.
You say you got something?
Israel calling the prophets party poopers and stuff. Like we throwing off their vibe or whatever. Like rapper Kendrick Lamar that he came up with this song, "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe." You know, and that's the spirit that our people are in. Like, you are messing up my sin. You know, like, I'm having fun sinning.
Right.
You know, and you pretty much dying to slow down.
Like, you like, nigga, I'm trying to help you out. You trying to avoid taking the Monday to Friday pills, are you?
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, they don't want your help.
Isaiah 30:9.
You know, Jake, hey, look. You know, that's the way Jake is, fucking rebellious.
Isaiah 39, it's the spirit. That this is the rebellious people, lying children, that will not hear the law of the Lord.
That's right.
Which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits, get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, right? Cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us, right? So kind of, and that's what they saying to the prophets now, that they're not going to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of how about Shah. And the Lord, He gave you liberty. The scripture talk about not using the cloak of liberty, not using liberty for a cloak of maliciousness. Okay, Jake doing just that. All right, and that's a willful sin. And here it is. You have the prophets is telling you, pulling out all these scriptures, let you know that it's wrong, but Jake's still doing it. You know, because Jake is just so accustomed to the ways of the serpent. And if I can get the war verse, in verse 12, it says, therefore let's say the Holy One of Israel, because ye despised his word and trust in oppression and perverseness, and say therein, therefore this iniquity shall be unto you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking coming suddenly at an instant, right? Because a lot of our people, they trust in oppression. And what are our people about to do in the next, what, month and a half, 2 months? They're about to go out there and vote.
That's right.
You know? They're about to be in these churches, these harlot houses, praying in the name of Jesus that Kamala Harris get in there, or whoever. All right, or Trump, but you know, you got niggas for Trump too. We're kind of going off on something else, but kind of.
All right. You brother got anything else? Not, we'll wrap it up. All right, beautiful. So that'll end the lesson for this evening. Like I said, it's a little lightweight lesson, you know, but nevertheless something that you can learn from, especially if you're new in the truth and you're trying to get your footing. All right, you can start with some of the basic building blocks, right? By understanding some of these laws, and one of the easiest things to do, really, that you can control is your diet to a certain degree. You can really control that, right? So. With that, we hope the lesson was edifying, and Lord's will, we'll see you all again next week. We're going to give all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakadash. And once again, Kwam Yasharala and Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.